Hello. I'm just trying to adjust this. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to do a vlog about HIV because 37 years ago, I believe it is, um, a man called Terence Higgins died. Terence Higgins was one of the first gay men in the UK to die of a HIV related illness. At the time, they would have called it an AIDS death. Now, in context of the time, the government didn't respond very well, if at all, to the HIV epidemic that was greatly affecting the gay male community, to some degree the drug using community, and there were a few incidences where people had contracted HIV through blood transfusions. But on the whole, primarily at that point in time, it was gay men who were contracting HIV, and most were dying. So Terence Higgins died on the 4th of July 1982. And as a result of this, and the fact that HIV was taking a grip in the gay male community, the gay and bisexual community, that the government weren't doing anything and people were dying. You know, I didn't come out till 1992 and it was still bad then, but that period, 82 until the 1990s, was awful. You know, so many guys who are kind of in their 50s, 60s, 70s now were burying people on a weekly basis. Yes, a weekly basis. And not only that, the press was vehemently homophobic, and because this was mainly affecting gay men, you can imagine what some of the headlines were around the time. You know, they're saying things like you can't share plates with people, you can sit on the same seat. If a gay man has sat on the seat, don't sit on the seat after him because you'll get AIDS. It was awful, awful, awful time. You know, so gay men at the time were facing utter discrimination and prejudice in society. The age of consent was 21. There are no laws, no hate crime laws. There are no laws in protection in employment and stuff like that. You know, if for example, you had a council flat and you were in a relationship and your partner died, you would not get a flat, you'd be kicked out, you know. There were no rights whatsoever, and HIV was happening at the same time. And as a response, gay men didn't bitch and whine and sit around and whine and complain about it. They got off their asses and set up one of the first organisations, which was the Terence Higgins Trust, which began to do things like distribute condoms to the community and help people, and eventually grew to be this massive, well-known charity that it is today. But it had very, very, very humble beginnings, which started 37 years ago today on the 4th of July, because after burying Terry, his friends got together and they went out that night to celebrate his life. And at Bang nightclub, they decided that they needed to do something. So they got together and they mobilized the community, you know, and our trans sisters and lesbian sisters came along and helped us out, you know. And we responded, not by committing crimes, not by doing bad things, not by being violent, not by rioting. No, we responded by coming together lovingly as a community and setting up organisations and charities and support services, and we made sure that we were looking out for each other as a community. that we had each other's backs and we had each other in our hearts, and we will look out for each other and look after each other and make sure people were visited in hospital and that people were taking stuff. And that is how we responded as a community, and that was 37 years ago today. And it's important to remember how far we've come in those 37 years, and that we can't go backwards in respects to what's happening at the moment in this country with Brexit and everything. And we can't tolerate any stigma or discrimination or prejudice towards people living with HIV, because now today, thank fuck for the drugs and thank fuck for the medications that are keeping people alive. Because towards the end of the period when there were no drugs, 1,500 gay men in the UK were dying of HIV. That is 30 a week. That's 4 or 5 a day. So 4 or 5 gay men a day in the UK were dying of HIV-related conditions in the time just before the drugs became available in the early 90s, and before combination therapy became really available in the mid 1990s. So we need to remember that and give thanks. And obviously, it probably would have been Pride weekend in 1982, and it would not have been the same Pride weekend that they're going to have this weekend in London. I can tell you that. There would have been violence, and there would have been people throwing bottles and stones, and the police would have been there, and the police would not be happy, and the police certainly weren't on the side of the community,